Carnival slayers.
Keety, how are you?
I'm here. I'm here. How
Good
are you
evening.
doing?
How are you doing? I'm good. How are you? You all right?
I'm good. 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 Good.
Excellent,
Lovely
excellent. So,
interview. That last interview.
yeah. Oh,
Love it.
you're watching it? Oh,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing, amazing,
Of
amazing.
course,
So
I was watching.
obviously, so we're going to cover more of the black education stuff with yourself. But for anyone who's
Okay.
in the stream at the moment, who maybe has never heard of you, maybe never come across what you do, if you can give us a brief overview of that.
Okay. After the introduction you gave me, you kind of nailed what I do. Apart from being apart from the music, so I'll leave the music to the side for now, but apart from the music, I've been a professional educator for over a decade,
Amazing.
lecturing in college, working primarily with so-called disenfranchised students. You know what that actually means, but disenfranchised students, students, hard to reach students, and all these other words that we add on to a certain demographic. So I've been working with them primarily. I've done loads of workshops up and down the country as well, working with the same demographic of student. And yeah, currently working, as I said, in a college,
Mhm.
teaching a variety of subjects: maths, English, Black history, or history, whichever way we want to call it. And a number of other subjects as well. Anything else they throw at me. Sports sciences. Sports science is my background. So
Mhm.
again, anything they throw at me,
You'll take it. You're taking it in your
I'll
stride.
take it.
So, all right. So you spoke about disenfranchised or hard to reach students, right?
Mhm.
Which I'm assuming, and it's not that I think this, but stereotypically is going to be black students mainly. Most people are gonna.
Unfortunately, you know, strange enough, what I've seen happen
Mhm.
is in London,
Mhm.
there's a very big mix of so-called disenfranchised students. It's not as clear cut as some people might believe. You know, these black kids getting into trouble. There's a lot of white kids, a lot of Asian kids. In fact, it's just young people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
what
so
do you
it's
think
right across.
teachers could do more of to engage disenfranchised students a bit more?
There's a number of things. Where do I start? First of all, we could look at the fact that when we're looking at, in particular, I'll say black students. When we're looking at black students and the sort of things that they get in trouble for or excluded, whether it's a permanent or a temporary exclusion, um, a lot of those things, in my humble opinion, could have been avoided with the right approach. I won't even say techniques, just the right approach. And a lot of that is caused by things such as the actual people who are doing the teaching. Yeah.
Mm.
So if you have the wrong people doing the teaching with the best of intentions, you're probably going to have a little bit of a problem. And I've seen it happen time and time again.
Mhm.
You know. So for instance, we currently have I think 498,000 educators across the UK.
Mhm.
Okay. Out of that number, 376,000, circa that number, are female. Okay. Um, so when you start looking at who's educating our kids,
Mhm.
there is a very clear blueprint of who is educating the kids. I mean, that leaves what, 120 or 120,000 for all of the others, and that's before we even start to get into the breakdown
Mhm.
of the different ethnicities of those teachers, which even that makes shocking reading as well. You're talking about 303 of 1,000 of those teachers being white females,
Mm.
British white females. So you start to, once you break it down like that, you start to get a clear picture of who's educating our kids. And this is nothing against people who fit that picture, but it's about recognizing what their issues may be and what's
Mhm.
missing, where the disconnect is taking place. You
Mhm.
know, and unfortunately, it's there. You know, the numbers are there. Anybody can look it up. I'm not just making them up in my head. It is what it is. You know, we're
So
very new.
why do you think that there's actually a shortage of black teachers?
Um, I think there's historical reasons. There's historical reasons. You know, you have a lot of people who don't look at that as a career progression, especially if you just think of the knock-on effect of going to school having a negative time of it all, you have a negative time at school, you're probably not going to think to yourself that this is the profession I want to go into, you know?
Yeah.
So you just get that knock-on effect of I had a poor time at school. Why would I even think about going back into school? You know, the last time I walk out the door, that's it. I'm not going back. Maybe a parents' evening in the future, you know?
Exactly. So how do you think we get more Black kids into thinking more about becoming Black teachers potentially in future? Because based on what you said, and if I've kind of put things together, really and truly, unless, you know, a child sees that they think people need to be taught more Black history, or you know, or something like that, that will probably aspire, make them think, you know what, let me be one of the people to make a difference. But aside from that, as you said, it's kind of like if you've had a bad experience, you don't really want to go back to that. So how can we get people into it more, children into it, I should say?
That's a very difficult one. But what I would say to you is, having spoken to other Black educators, people like myself, who anybody who's on this live now, all I could say to you is, if one of my teachers was on the live, they'll probably have a heart attack hearing what I do, what I currently do, because I've taken that journey of being like the kids who I now educate. So I think that is the first part of it. In fact, it's the hugest part of it. On top of your qualifications are great, but I always say to people, you know, I do not introduce myself with the letters after my name. I hope that the way I speak to people and the way I conduct myself and my presence is my introduction to people. Because if I need to say to you, well, I'm and I'm then, you know, then something is lost somewhere down the line. However, not to take away from those qualifications, because qualifications, I always use this analogy when I'm talking to students. I say to them, qualifications should not define you. They're the keys to enter that building that you're trying to get into. Okay, once you're inside the buildings, rest your qualifications down, and then you need to take over. Okay, so we as Black educators, it is our jobs to make sure that we are instilling, more than anybody else, in my humble opinion, we have to make sure that we are instilling positivity into those children. Any young Black kids primarily that we come across, we absolutely have to, because remember, we're fighting against the grain. We are fighting. We're coming from a position almost like somebody dropped the baton in a relay race and you've gone back and picked it up. You need to be running faster. And that's what we need to do as educators, you know?
Now, in terms of, like, let's say concerns of any Black children that you teach or tutor, are there any concerns that may shock us that they sometimes have, you know, that they may come and speak to you about? I say confidentially, but, you know, it could be, you know, a lot of them have, you know, are worried about getting into certain schools or exams or certain subjects that they tend to struggle with. Is there anything like that?
Very interesting. I won't go into it in details for obvious reasons, but what I will tell you is a huge part of the job. In fact, it is the actual foundation of the job. It is dealing with those pastoral issues. It is making those students comfortable, because it's well known, if you do not set that foundation, if students are not comfortable, if they're cold, if they're hungry, you have barriers to learning. If you don't break those barriers to learning down, you're going to make it twice as difficult for you to teach and ultimately for them to learn. So you need to have that rapport, like you said, to start with. You've got to be able to talk to them. And it's always great when they want to come and talk to you, you know, off the record, or you know, you have to explain to them what certain things need to go back on the record, depending on what it is. But generally, you know, I'll give you an example. A student came to me relatively recently, and he's got behavioral issues, anger issues, as they say, and, you know, ADHD, classic cases, you know. And this student explained to me that he's being sort of verbal with his mum. The fact that he came and said that to me says to me, you have something going on in your head that tells you what you're doing is wrong. Okay? So every now and again, when I'm talking to students, I don't care the environment, the badge is off. And when I say the badge is off, I'm metaphorically speaking, that badge is off. There's a big man talking to you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what is missing. A big man is talking to you, and I'm talking to you in a language that you can understand. Yeah, so I can ask you what you think you're dealing with. What are you doing? Why are you talking to your mother like that? Are you mad? Why do you think that's okay? Yeah, and I wait for you to give me an answer. I really want to answer because you've engaged me. Why is it okay? So I've asked the student, why is it okay for you to talk to your mom like that?
Mm-hmm.
She was getting me mad. So I asked him, this guy's about my height. He's about 6 foot.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not a little guy, you know, skinny, but he's about 6 foot. And so I'm trying to explain to him what it must be like for his mom, who's smaller than him, just seeing this angry kid getting bigger and older and bigger and older, who's shouting at her, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make him understand. So I said to him, supposing you made me angry and I jumped up and I started shouting in your face, would that be right? And the look of horror on his face, like, no, you can't do that. You're the, oh, you know. So we had a
Mm.
conversation, and these are the kind of conversations that we get this really unique opportunity to have with these kids, because a lot of them, they will, I won't even say play up, but you know what it's like. They will front up in front of their friends, you know. They will never admit that anything's wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the first day they come into the college environment, you know, they're sitting down screw facing. I've almost got a smirk on my face. I'm thinking everybody's trying to screw face to show that I'm the one who's not scared and I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. None of you are good. You're all shaking inside at your new environment, and you really want someone to take you aside and tell you it's going to be okay. A
Yes.
lot of these kids are not getting anybody who's telling them it's going to be okay.
No.
And even when people are talking to them, it's unfortunate a lot of times in the wrong language. They're not speaking to them in a way that they're going to digest, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
So,
Because I was
yeah.
going to ask as well, from the example you gave, I wonder if that same student went to, and I'm sorry to say it, well, we could just say, a teacher of just a different race, right? I
Hmm?
wonder how that teacher would have dealt with that situation. How would they have spoken to that child? Would they have spoken to them in such a real way that you would have done? It does.
Almost certainly not. Almost certainly not. You'd have probably been, oh my God, oh my God. You can't do that. That's horrendous. Yeah, they're not. That's not gonna work. I'm not. I can't help. I can't help how I am. That's just my style, right? When I'm
Yeah.
talking to students, let me tell you something. One of the things that you're taught is
Mm-hmm.
not to use too much humor, right? When you're talking to students, I look at the people who say that. I'm like, really? Are you serious? Sometimes that is your greatest tool. That's your greatest tool if it's done properly. You can't teach somebody to do that. It needs to be your personality. So when your personality is in tune to the people who you're working with, it gives you a huge advantage. I work with some great subject teachers. Yeah, people who got great subject knowledge, and I've seen the greatest of subject knowledge teachers crumble
Mm.
because they cannot get. Teaching is only as good as the learning that's taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I could think to myself, oh, I know all about this subject. I'm really good at this subject. And people are sitting down and they don't know what I'm talking about. They don't know because I've started at too high a level or whatever the case may be. Then
Right.
that means I'm not teaching properly, you know? So likewise with the conversations, you're talking about kids coming to you with issues. It happens all day. It happens all day, kids that come in with, and some of the stories you do hear, again, I won't go into it, but I gave you a light one. I've heard some horrific things,
Mm.
that just come out of the blue. You can have a student that is so-called playing up. That's why they've been sent to alternative provision. They've been kicked out of numerous facilities, schools, etc. Then they end up at college. Nobody's fixed the underlying issues. Nobody's addressed the underlying issues. And again, sometimes not for a want of trying, but just the wrong people. If you give me a bowl of soup and you put a fork in it, I'm probably going to have a little bit of a problem digesting. Yeah. So we need to have the right tools. We are the tools. Yeah. So we need to be in the right position to deal with those kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to David, and it put a smile on my face listening to him speak, because from a male black educator perspective, I'm looking at the guy and I'm thinking, there's more of us. Yeah. It's great to see. Seriously, it's
Yeah.
great to see, because we are really, really a species that is nearly extinct.
Mm.
And if you think to yourself, you know, we have a few thousand black educators. It's not enough. It's just really not enough. We make up over 3% of the country. We make up about 14.5% of London. You know, but we're nowhere near the numbers required
Yeah.
in the education system. And sorry to say, but another problem that we have, even if you start to break down the black educators that are there,
Mm.
by the time they get to the level required to be where they are,
Yeah.
the look on your faces, you probably know what I'm going to say. You know, we probably end up with, you know, some very, very, very diluted teachers. I'll be nice, but, you know, very diluted. And they're not in a position to deal with what they need to deal with. I've seen teachers refuse to work with certain students, and not because the students done anything. You know, the main reason our students, the main reason our students are getting excluded and all the rest of it, our kids, should I say, most of that happens. The most expulsions happens, permanent expulsions happens at the age of 14.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that? Why, you know, people ask that, and I've asked myself that question many, many times. What is happening to our kids, men, boys, you
Mm.
know, at that age? What, something's happening.
Mm.
Primary school, black boys generally flourish. They're usually seen as quite bright, you know,
Yeah.
they might be a little bit mischievous, but what kid isn't, you know?
Mm.
But then they get to that sort of teenage age and, you know, 14, and it just starts to go down the hill in a lot of cases, and very quickly as well.
Mm.
So I've asked this question and I've got so many answers for it. And one of the ones that keeps reoccurring is girls. So I scratch my head. I'm saying, okay, only black boys notice girls. Yeah, that really makes sense. Of course it doesn't. Doesn't make any sense, you know? So we can quickly dismiss that. So there's got to be something else, but it's clearly an issue that is causing our boys in particular, girls as well, but to
Mhm.
a larger extent, it's the boys.
Mhm.
Why are they falling away from education? And we start looking at things like as you become more aware of yourself, yeah, you start to understand who you are. You start to realize the discriminations that you wasn't recognizing before as an innocent kid, you
Mm.
know. And a number of these things I start looking at and I'm start putting them together, and it's almost like you're building a jigsaw, and the picture is starting to take shape. Around 14, you start to become disenfranchised. You start to realize, hold on, all of these people I'm learning about are just, they're not doing anything positive for my mindset. You know, you're probably not able to articulate it like that at 14, but in your head, there's some confusion going on because you just know this don't feel like it's for me. I've had students saying that to me, oh, this education's not for me. And I'm like, what do you mean education's not for you? You know, but it happens and it's happening every day. You know,
But it's
sad.
strange that they would say that because at the end of the day, you went through primary school to get to secondary school. So it's not like
Absolutely.
education is a brand new thing that you just stumbled upon. So no, you're right. There is definitely some sort of point. I know, for example, when you get to like 13, 14, yes, the hormones start to kick in. Yes, you've met new people, etc., etc. But for you to say it's predominantly black males, clearly then there's other issues on top of that that we need to kind of
Absolutely.
figure out and address. I'm curious to know whether you've, and again, you don't have to go into names and
Mm.
get too specific, but have you ever had a child, a black child in particular, come to you and say that they're, let's say, being or feel like they're being segregated by a teacher of a different color, let's say, and that's then
Uh,
affected, you know, how does that affect their education? I can imagine the answer you're going to give, but you might surprise us. I don't know.
okay. First part of that question, I'll answer and say, unfortunately, more times than I would care to even get into. Too many times, way too many times. And again, looking at it with an unbiased head, what I see, like I said to you before, I see people who are good educators. They you know their subjects. They're struggling to deliver it to a certain student. So what happens is they become frustrated because they know their subject. The students become frustrated because you're not able to speak to them in a way for them to absorb your subject. There becomes this impasse. And what happens in a lot of cases is the teachers become frustrated. And when they become frustrated, it's taken out on the kids. And unfortunately, the kids that generally bear the brunt of that are going to be the ones that maybe are more vocal, the ones that are deemed to be, you know, problematic. Again, when we go back to those exclusions, those permanent exclusions, the mass of those are for things like being abusive, you know. The large majority of them are for being abusive, and in some cases being verbally abusive or threatening. Now, that's a very gray area. It's a very gray area to me. And the reason why I say that, we know that there's certain people on this earth, of which we fit into, that are very demonstrative when we talk. And I'm the king of that. You know, I'm trying to stay still for the camera. But generally speaking, you know, we do all of this when we're talking. And, you know, you come into my house at any time, you know, my brother's in there and you think there's a fight going on. Right? You know, it's very, very typical. So when you get people who don't understand that, who think that everybody speaks like this all the time, and if they get very angry, they're going to say things like, I'm very angry right now. Yeah. You know, not everybody does that. Some people are loud, but it doesn't mean that they're going to, take it to anywhere else, you know. And I think a lot of the educators, they're actually intimidated by these students. They're intimidated from the get-go. So the moment that we do have an exchange of words, we have a problem, because the easiest thing to do, the easiest way to deal with that student is, right, that's it, you're out. Whoa, yeah. Wicked. Yeah, you're gone. You know, so I don't need to deal with that 6-foot kid who was sitting in the corner because I was intimidated, you know? So when you do get, and again, not all, you know, I don't want to just paint everybody with the same brush, but when you do get your black educators, the good ones, if you get those black male educators in there as well, because we absolutely need more men in education. We do, you know, we need more women as well, but we absolutely need those men, because there are many things that I'm seeing that's going on with these boys. I mean, we could start to get into the issue of missing fathers, which, don't get me started on that, but that's another huge issue, because this is the end result. This is what we're getting as an end result. We've got 14, 15, 16-year-old boys being the man of their house. Yeah. And if you've got weak mothers as well, then it doesn't make a very good balance. You know, you're going from being the man in your house to being told to sit down and write whatever or read whatever, and it doesn't sit well. So a lot of the things that we're being told is you know, about our kids not accessing education, being aggressive, not listening, you know, truant, all of the above, basically. And people say to you, yeah, a lot of black kids. And I usually say to people, anytime you hear black people do this or black kids do that, just for a second, take out the word black and put poor in and see if it still works. Yeah? Because that's what usually happens. You put the word poor in and you realize, hold on, oh, maybe I need to think a little bit deeper, because maybe there's more demographic, you know, influence than I'm actually putting into it. You know, geographical. Where are you? What's your living conditions? What's going on at home? How are you eating properly? You know, are you warm? Are you comfortable? Are you scared? You know, all of these things. Sometimes you have students that are badly behaved, and badly behaved does not just mean obviously aggressive. Badly behaved might mean just laughing and making jokes right throughout the lesson. Both of them are going to disrupt your lesson exactly the same. The ones that usually fall through the cracks, the same stimuli, the same reason why they're presenting whatever behavior, but they're sitting in the class completely quiet. Not a problem. Most teachers, lecturers think, oh, that's great. You're a model student. I want to know why you're sitting quiet like that. I want to know why are you just completely quiet, because that's not normal. Something's going on there. I want to know what. You need to have a little conversation. I'm not going to attack it rough, you know, obviously. I'm going to speak to you and try and find out what do you like, what's going on, what do you do, you know, and 9 times out of 10, you will get to that underlying issue, because there almost certainly is an issue. That's not normal young person's behavior, to just be, you know, quiet. So it's about us understanding that, you know, you can have problems that manifest itself in so many different ways. So when we're getting our kids getting accused of being, you know, really noisy or maybe just uncooperative in lessons, rather than just think exclude, maybe you need another intervention, you know, before the exclusion would take place. Somebody who's going to speak to them, somebody who they've got a rapport with, somebody who actually gives a damn, you know. And yeah, that for me, that's just such a huge thing today in the education system.
Because the thing is, you've brought up obviously that you do get you are going to get black children who are more expressive, and obviously even aside from children, obviously we have this tend to have this label that we're aggressive, we're loud, we're
Yep,
too this, we're too
yep,
that, when it's, you know, we just been taught how to express ourselves, you know. So it's
absolutely.
almost like, do I'm not saying people should do this, but it's almost like, so what, are you supposed to teach your kids to be, you know, very polite and stuff like that, and keep their mouth shut? Or like, how do we get around that issue? Because in my opinion, a child is who they are. You can't stop them from, you can't say to them, no, 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 you need to
Absolutely
be quiet, you
correct.
can't talk, you know?
Correct. I think again, it's it's a case of us deciding to ourselves. Our kids are like analogies, right? So how do we get our kids to be taught in the way that we want? How do we get our kids to be able to act and express themselves? We're not talking about being rude. We're talking about express themselves in the way that is normal to them in terms of their home life, their family life. And again, I'm talking about a normal family sort of environment. Yeah. Um, if that's a very expressive, you know, maybe louder than your stereotypical European household, or English household, should I say, we need to understand that we need to stop allowing ourselves to be measured with other people's rulers. Yeah. Again, if I said to you, or to anybody, this is something I actually say to people in a classroom. Right. I want you to close your eyes and think of different nationalities of people. And I say, who's got big lips? And then I say, who's got little eyes? And who's
Mhm.
got big nose? And then they come out of all these things. And then I turn around and I say to them, if you recognize big and small, subconsciously, you have to have recognized normal. Who's normal?
Mhm.
Do you understand?
Mhm.
A lot of the things that are taught to us are very subliminal. You don't actually have to say it. If I tell you that this is too big and that's too small, something's got to be that norm. And
Mhm.
in a lot of cases, we know who set themselves up as the norm. How are you going to tell me my lips is big? You know, how you, that's crazy. But some of us buy into it and we believe it, you
Yeah.
know, and we have to make sure that our kids are hearing these things, are scratching their head from a young age, because sometimes what we have to recognize as educators as well, we're not telling you A to Z. We're
Mhm.
telling you A, B, C. And guess what? We're making you want to know what D and E is all
Mhm.
by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I look at it. Plant those seeds. We have to keep planting those seeds. I've heard people, even in education, say, I've had enough of these youths, man. I give up with these youths. I'm like, are you crazy? You give up with these youths? I'm like, you give up with yourself then. You're mad. You need to leave, you know, because we can't. We can't.
No, we've got to keep pushing. Now, we do have a question in the question box. Guys, if you do have any
Yep.
questions, make sure you put them in the questions box or put them in the comments, and I'll try and remember to go back to it. Make sure you just share the stream as well. It's an important topic here we're talking about. Okay, it wasn't a question. So the person said, not a question, but no teacher better than Keith Kamali. That's what was said. That's what was said. That is what was said. So another thing as well, kind of going off of what we've just spoken about, but maybe kind of flipping it a little bit. What concerns do you find parents of black children have and maybe come to you with? Again, don't have to name names, but it would be good to
Yep.
get some examples.
There are many concerns. One of the biggest one, unfortunately, is from parents who have already or feel they have lost control.
Mhm.
I get a lot of those, and really worryingly and very sad is a lot of females who, you know, they come in for a meeting, whether something's going on with their kid, whether it's a parents' evening or whatever it is, and they see the rapport you have with their kid by that time, and they absolutely latch onto you. Like, you know, I've had, listen, the amount of times I've heard it, you know, in a professional context, I hope, but it's
Yeah.
like, I wish I could take you home, you know, because there's a man missing, you know, because the man's missing. The man, and again, I completely understand it's a man in terms of their kid, somebody who they can see, because I've heard, you know, and you know, we get these files, you read the files, you see how they are with their mum at home, and then their mum sees them sitting straight and listening, you know, when they're telling them something. And I'm saying, dude, what are you talking to your mum like that for? You're mad, behave yourself, you know, and then, you know, they listen, because only we can do that. Only we can do that. You
Mm.
know, the best people, best place to carry young boys across that threshold into manhood is a black man. Yeah. In the absence of a black man, the black woman. Yeah. That's
Mhm.
the reality. That's the truth. Preferably both of them together. That's the ideal. Yeah. Because we don't live in an ideal world, we have to now try and deal with, you know, what we do have. So we got these parents that will come and, you know, those sort of issues, you know, with regards to not being able to deal with their child. They don't know what to put in place because they are, you know, they go out and they come back late and they just sit on their Xbox. And I'm like, they sit on their what? They sit on their Xbox. So my next question would be, who bought the Xbox? In fact, I don't even care who bought the Xbox. Whose house is it in? Yeah. I had one of my colleagues, right? African support worker. And he said the best thing I've ever heard in my life. He was supporting a class, and this kid was being really, you know, out of order. Oh, it's my drink. I could drink. It's my drink. And so he told them a story about his own son. I mean, it had me in tears. So basically,
Mm.
he's told his son to tidy up his room. So he said, anytime he's cooking, his boys have to come and stand up in the kitchen. That's the rule. They know that from little, and they now do it pretty automatically. One of these days, one of these kids decided to, I don't know, I won't say quite challenge, but in his books, it was a challenge, yeah? So he told him to tidy up the room before I come back. So the boy said to him, well, it's my room. Why is it a big deal if I tidy it? So he said to his son, okay, it's your room. When I come back, you've got two choices. Either the room's tidy or your room isn't in my house anymore, right? So I just thought to myself, only a black man comes up with stuff like that. Only a black man. And as ridiculous as it is, the kids get it. They understand. They respond to it. You
Yeah.
understand? And so we need to understand that we cannot be diluted when we go into these environments. And I think that's what's happening. Too many of our educators, do you feel that you've got to say to people, stop squabbling? And what? We don't use them where they're squabbling. Behave yourself and stand up straight. You know, to talk to them as they understand and they respect. They respect it generally. You know, it is what it is. But the parents, a lot of them are part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sad to say, a lot of
Okay.
them are part of the problem. They don't put enough they, not pressure, but they just don't put enough guidance on their kids in terms of, you know, what they need to achieve, how difficult it is out there. I mean, it's getting even more difficult. Not
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, with all of this crazy world we're living in since December as well, you know, it's getting more and more difficult. So if these parents are not thinking, not talking to these kids, I stop lessons sometimes.
Mm.
Just stop because a topic's being raised somewhere. That's what we're going to deal with because that's more important than what we are talking about right now. And again, Black history, maths, um, English, the sciences, very important. You
Mm-hmm.
see, day-to-day life, how to conduct yourself, how not to get yourself in trouble, how to deal with your interactions with the police, what is a bank account, how it works, what
Yes.
is overdraft, etc., etc.
Yes.
These life skills are what is going to save our kids. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the life skills, conflict resolution. Yeah, that's a big one, and I embed that in everything I do with kids. You know, conflict resolution. I done a course a few years ago, and I got to say it's one of the best things I've done. You know, management, leadership, conflict resolution. So it's just like when you get kids to sit down, the amount of beef I've squashed without going through official channels. I refuse where possible. You know, you hear something's going to happen after college and this is going to happen and that's what, and people want to call this one and that one. I'm like, the obvious people to call are the two individuals. Send them to me, the both of them. I want both of them. So what I would do is I go and talk to one in one room. I talk to the other in the other room. And then what I try and do is find which one of them seems receptive to squashing it. Because there's usually one. There's usually one. Yeah. Then I'll go and work on the other one to find out why he's pushing this beef. Yeah. And I'll talk to you with doors closed. We're going to have this. We're going to have this. Yeah. And we're going to talk about where this can go. Yeah. And I really want you to hear real, you know, gloves off, dirty, where this can go and where it can lead to and where it started. And it's usually something stupid. Of course. Yeah. But it's amazing being in that environment. But there's just there are so many things we can do to make it better. You know.
And talking of life skills, although that's more of a general thing, it's not necessarily something that is specific to Black children or Black history. But why do you think it is that there's life skills, important life skills that you actually mentioned that I've even spoken to people about, that aren't taught in school? Even as you said, how to behave, how to conduct yourself, the whole bank account thing. Even, you know, I've had people say to me that they messed up their credit years ago when they were probably like 18, and now they're like, oh, wait a minute, now I see why I shouldn't have done this, that, and the other, because it's now affecting me as an adult trying to better myself and get a house and all this kind of stuff. So why aren't we taught these things, do you think?
Okay. Our education system is a couple of 100 years old. Yeah, we need to always remember this, why our education system is as it is. It's a couple of 100 years old, and it was designed to put kids through a conveyor belt sort of situation so that they come out of the other end ready to take their place on the production line. Yeah, so that's you literally go through classes like a production line, right? You come out the other end with these skills that's going to get you a job for life. That might have been true 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago. It ain't true today, right? And kids are not stupid. People need to give them more credit. Yeah, when I was in school, I could have said to myself, I'm going to do carpentry because I am going to be a carpenter. So when I finish school with my qualification, I go to the job center and I get a job as a carpenter. It was almost as straightforward as that.
Right.
We're living in a world now where kids know that GCSEs, even degrees, does not guarantee you a job. So we are fighting against a new set of, you know, enemies, if you want to look at it like that. And we need to find ways to overcome it. And the ways that we're going to best equip those kids is to make sure that they understand life skills, make sure that they understand adversity, make sure they understand how to resolve conflict, make sure they learn how to speak and articulate themselves, make sure that they understand that when they're doing those things, it does not make them weak. Yeah, I heard David say something earlier on that put a smile on my face. Again, when those kids are asked to talk about role models and they mention you, it makes your chest just go boodum, boodum in your chest. It just makes your heart just beat nicely. Because again, it's a sense of pride. It's a sense of you're making some sort of change, you know. You're not going to save everybody, but if you save one every now and again, you're doing a job, you know. And there's not enough of us right now. There really isn't enough of us. But the ones that are there, you know, as long as they're doing the right job, we're going in the right direction. And we need to just remember that, you know.
And continue. Now, guys, again, if you've got any questions, drop them in the box because they're coming in now, thick and fast. So we've got one here. So what would you suggest are the actions to be taken for students that have been bullied by teachers?
Right. Okay. In the first place, if you get it happens, it definitely happens. Had to deal with a situation like that before. And this was many moons ago. In fact, it was right near the beginning of me being in the education system. In fact, I was a support worker when I went in. There's a whole nother story. I was a support worker for a few weeks. And basically, I saw a kid who was getting treated kind of funny. He's a white kid and a white teacher, but she was treating him really offish. And cut a story short, he got excluded. for something. I don't know what it was. I wasn't in the class. When he came back, he wasn't a saint himself, but I could see that he was getting picked on. When he came back, I went to sit next to him to support him. And he was mumbling about this teacher already. So I had a little word with him saying to him, don't even bother think about kicking off with her and making more of a problem, yeah? So anyways, the teachers asked her a question, and then she said, if anybody needs help, put your hand up. He said, I ain't putting my hand up. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. I know you need help. Put your hand up. So reluctantly, he put his hand up, right, along with a couple of other students. She walked past him to go to another student, and he started, and I'm saying, shh, she's gonna come back to you, just quiet. She walked past him again to go to the other student. She finished with the other student and carried on talking to the class. He went, no, you see what I mean? I just went, shh, up you get, up you get, take it back. When we went out of the classroom, this kid thought he's going to be, no, it wasn't even me, it wasn't me, why am I in trouble? I'm like, who said you were in trouble? I just took him straight to my manager's office and told her exactly what I saw. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but that's what needs to happen. The kid, in the first instance, needs to find somebody who they can speak to, somebody that they can, hopefully there's somebody in the school or the college that they are comfortable with. And most importantly, they need to make sure that they don't yell out their issue. And that's something that usually backfires, because if you're going, and then the person said, no, I told them to leave because they was being angry and aggressive, and you've just presented angry and aggressive,
Yes,
you're not helping your cause, you know? So yeah, they just need to make sure that they've told somebody, make sure it's recorded. Parents, make sure that it is recorded, because even if you don't get any joy in the first instance, if this happens again, and if you get somebody that's likely to bully kids, it's probably not going to be a standalone situation as well. You know, they probably will do it again, whether to that kid or somebody else. Once we start seeing a pattern emerging, I'm sure some action will be taken. You know?
And to kind of follow on from that, all right. If a student feels that they're being segregated, racially profiled, bullied by a teacher, right? Obviously, their parent isn't there. So, you know, they might not really have so much proof of that. It may only be a verbal thing that they can explain. However, during lockdown, have you found that parents are noticing it? Because obviously, I'm guessing they've been doing like virtual lessons and stuff. And I've sort of seen like a video recently kind of circulating the internet where the parent was actually listening in, but they couldn't be seen on the camera. And I can't remember what it was that the teacher said, but it was some sort of racial comment. And then she jumped on the camera and was like, I've heard exactly what you just said and I'm not happy with it. And I'll be talking to, you know, the head teacher, etc., etc. So I'm wondering if those kind of issues are easier to evidence or being highlighted more now or more known to parents because maybe they can actually see what's going on.
Yeah, I would expect so. You know, you think so, because if they're able to be present when lessons are taking place, then there is that possibility. But you know, that'd have to be some special kind of idiot to be, you know, being on a camera and making any sort of disparaging comments, whether it's racial or otherwise, you know. But I just think we need to remember that doesn't matter what your job title is. Not everybody who's doing their job is doing it as a vocation. For some people, it is just their job. It's you know, it's their work, and you know, they haven't got that much affinity with the students that they're teaching. You know, I see it all the time. Doesn't mean to say that they're necessarily bad at their job, and that's important to understand as well. But their reasoning for being there doesn't run as deep, and what the outcome of that generally is that they're not going to put up with as much. They want to go into their classroom. They want people sitting down and listening to what they're telling them because I'm here to teach you. Do you see what I mean? And those are the ones that are not likely to swerve off because student X, you know, seems like he's got a little bit of a problem. It's like, yeah, student X's problem is mine for the next 20 minutes. And then I don't see him again till next week or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, parents just need to be vigilant. I think in a lot of cases, we hand over our children, especially people who work with little kids. I'm not sure what age David worked with. Was it primary school? I'm
Primary
pretty sure.
school, yeah.
Primary school, yeah. And again, you know, I was talking about the fact that we're very rare. That's even more rare, you know, nursery and primary school level. And that's absolutely needed to set that foundation. So by the time they come to me, hopefully it'll be easier, you know. But yeah, it's important that every step of the way, it's normalized, seeing people, you know, with qualifications, seeing people who are doing certain things, because we don't realize a lot of the times, I say over and over to people, we don't just eat with our mouth, we eat with our eyes and our ears as well. Yeah. So when you got students and stuff who think that teacher's cool, you know, yeah, he's nice, you know, he's cool, you hear it over and over. When they see you get into that pretty whip and drive off, those are the little things that they look at. They look at those things, you know, and they aspire to certain things. And it's our job to turn it back and say, I work. You understand? I work and I get what I've got by working. And we need to keep reaffirming that. And the amount of different stories I give them in terms of saying, for instance, driving down the road and having a car go woo, woo, woo behind you and knowing, if it's me they're pulling over, no problem, because I haven't done anything. You know, is that your car, sir? Yes. And you know that already before you stopped me, etc., etc. You know, and a lot of them, you know, they like it, they hear it, and you know that some of it's sticking. And that's what we need to keep doing. Just keep feeding, keep feeding.
100%. We've got more questions. They're coming in. They're coming in. All right. So we've addressed that one. Okay. Has lost trust in education and going to school. Oh, okay. So following on from the question about being bullied, what do you do if a student has lost trust in education and going to school? I think we kind of covered that, but elaborate a little bit more.
Okay. What I would say, if your kid has lost trust, I'm going to assume that the trust that we're talking about here, I mean, we could be talking about the trust in terms of feeling safe to go into school, or are we talking about the trust in terms of is education even important? That depends on which one. Let's look at the second one first. So if we're going to be talking about them losing faith, trust, whatever in education generally, I think it's really important that parents recognize when you're handing your kids over to educators or a facility, school, the government, however you want to look at it. Did I just call myself the government? Jeez, oh wow. You get what I mean. We work, unfortunately, we work in government buildings. So we need to recognize that we cannot just give them to people and just think that this unknown person who's got my child for more time than I have is going to be doing right by my child. We need to be quizzing our kids. What did you learn today? You know, it's not good. It's not good enough to just go, well, what did you do today? We did maths. Oh, great. What did you learn in maths? I learned that blah, 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 blah. Okay, we was doing whatever you was doing. Okay, show me. Because the best way that you learn is by teaching. That's the best way you learn, by regurgitating what you have been told. Do it. Do it. Show me. You just told me that you know about it. Tell me about it then. Or my teacher told me about such and such. No, tell me. You tell me about it now. So then we learn together. You educate me. You refresh my memory. And a lot of young kids absolutely love being able to do that. They like playing at teachers, you know. So you be the teacher. Tell me what you did, you know. So again, to round up that point, that's what I think we need to do. We need to make sure that we're part and parcel of the child's education. It shouldn't be standalone. Your kids with others for way too long for you to just think they're doing a good job. I'll just find out what's going on Parents' Day, Parents' Evening. That's it's not enough. It's not enough.
It has to continue at home. It has to continue at home. It has to continue.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Definitely. And we've got another question here. I like this one. Is children wanting to become an influencer an issue? And I'm wondering with that, especially at that 13, 14-year-old kind of stage, especially when social media is very, a very big thing, at the minute.
I'm of the opinion that whatever age you are as an adult, so I'm talking from the parent looking at their child, I'm of an opinion that the moment you become completely closed to new views and new ways of doing something, you start to get old. Yeah. So you need to keep your mind open to this world, this whole, look what we're doing now. Yeah. Middle of the night, we're having a conversation, other people present, and we're in the comfort of wherever we are. Okay, so this is, I hate the words new normal. I've been telling people not to use it, but this is, it is what it is. So this is a nice way of us being able to, speak, share opinions, converse with each other, etc. And if you have young people coming into this world where, as I said earlier, they've got to look at ways to move with what is the current situation. How are you going to, you're not going to want to go down coal mines. Your grandparents in some cases might tell you, oh, I came here and I worked on the production line doing X, and people who work in coal mines and whatnot. They're not going to be aspiring to that, obviously. That doesn't exist. So where are they going? They're going to go online. Okay, so if you have a legitimate online business, great. If you found a way of becoming an influencer and monetizing it, fantastic. Who am I to stand in your way? My problem with that, the one problem, all of that said, is personally, I would liken it to a student, which I get this all the time. I want to be an NBA player. Okay, first of all, you live in England, yeah. So that's a little bit of a issue to start with, right? Okay. Secondly, I don't see you doing any level of training that's going to get you there, right? So what I'm talking about is not killing people's dreams, but trying to get them to have realistic dreams. It's the same like if you want to be a professional footballer in this country, most top clubs will not touch you if you haven't done your GCSEs. They will put you into school because they know the small number that end up at the other end to become professional footballers. Bring it back to influencers. Everybody wants an easy life. Everybody wants a glamorous, let me just, right, that's time to go in front of the camera and here you go. That money's just pouring in. Don't we all? Well, listen, I would have turned an influencer tomorrow. Yeah, because, it's what people want, but sometimes we've got to keep their feet on the floor, not kill the dreams, but tell them to start off as a hobby. Do it as a hobby. Study your lessons, your normal lessons, and try that influencer thing. If it starts to pick up, roll with it.
There you go. And the thing is as well, all right, so a child could aspire to be an influencer or something along those lines. A career where they're like, I don't need education to do that. But at the end of the day, I think something else we have to kind of teach them is the fact that you might want to be an influencer today, but in however many years' time, you might want to be something else which requires qualifications,
Absolutely.
Yep. So you have to set yourself up so that you're ready for, to chop and change as and when you wish.
Absolutely right.
So important. I want to talk about Road to Education before the live ends because it usually ends by an hour. So I want to make sure we fit that in. So talk to us about Road to Education, what it is, how you started it, etc.
Okay, Road to Education. It's my little baby that I started up on the back of working in education and many of the issues that we've covered here now tonight, in terms of seeing the way that some kids are a little bit ostracized for whatever reason, and there's a little bit of a frustration when you're seeing kids coming to you after something's happened where I'm not fully in the position to now to quash it because somebody's escalated something already, and I don't want to be overriding people and and stuff like that. So I thought, what is missing? What is missing? What are you seeing? What can you take from your own personal experience? And it always comes back to those black educators, men and women. Yeah. We need to be in an environment where we can talk freely. We need to be, I talk freely anyway, to be honest, but we need to be in an environment where, we haven't got our hands shackled by the education system in terms of what you can teach, what you can't teach. To be fair, I'm pretty lucky in that I have got a lot of leeway, as to what I teach. I pick my subjects for the most part, and it makes life a hell of a lot easier. Black history, conflict resolution, those workshops are things that Road to Education was put together. So roadtoeducation.com, yeah. So we do things like workshops on Carnival workshops, workshops on Black history, from different perspectives as well, because it's really interesting, that word Black history, because if I said to you, Portuguese landed in Africa, and Antal Gonçalves went into Africa in 1441 and went back with the first set of African captives. Whose history is that? Is that not Portuguese history as well?
Right.
Do you understand? So when we need to be careful when we're saying Black history, we're has history got a color? Has it got a color? You know, it hasn't, has it? It's all intertwined. It just is. What we're really talking about is when we say Black History Month, we're talking about, or should be talking about, Black Upliftment Month. You see what I mean? Because it's not necessarily Black history. It's history. It happened. And you was just as involved in it as this person. So without your slave ships coming from Britain or Portugal or Spain or France, there's no story about a transatlantic slave trade. So how you want to wash your hands off it and claim that it's our history? It's yours. You know, it's your dirty history. Or we could call it European Dirty History Month. You know, if we want to get technical with it. And again, you know, it is what it is. And for me, Road to Education set out to give a rounded picture of the education of our kids, a rounded history lesson. So 400 years or just under 400 years should not define us as a people. It absolutely shouldn't, because, you know, we need to start teaching kids about the greatness of their ancestry. We need to teach them, even through the adversity of slavery, here we are, still here, still smiling. You know, yeah, we're putting up with a lot of crap, but you know what? We're still here and we're still hanging in there. And there's many of us that are still, you know, going to next level, still able to teach our own, still able to look backwards. We cannot allow anybody to say, right, it's Black History Month. And you know, another thing that really gets me, I have to mention this, that really gets me, with Black History Month. When you're asked to deliver something on Black history, somebody's always going to say to you about steel band, carnival dancers, and when you start talking about the greatness of your people, start talking about Bob Marley, and they start talking about sports stars. Now, you know what's really funny about me making this comment? All of my professions involve either music, sport, and then this. However, I have a huge problem with you using music and sport alone to present my history. It can be in there, but it cannot be what we're leading with. Oh, out you come, let's beat some drums and shake your butt around for an hour. Oh, it's great, and let's taste your food. Oh, your food's really spicy and nice, and you dance really well, and you know, and it's, no, I'm sorry, because if I said to any other nation of people, you know, present your history to me, that's not what we're going to get. That's not what we're going to get. You see what I mean? So we need to be very, very mindful of that. So Road to Education has set out to make sure that kids are getting a rounded set of lessons with Black history embedded all the way through, and positivity and those subliminals. So I'll give you an example of the subliminals we're talking about. I took a book, and I can't remember the name of the book off my head right now, but I was reading a book and it's talking about the slave trade. Yeah. And it says that who were the Maroons. It was about the Maroons. It said, who were the Maroons? The Maroons were slaves who escaped, who fled from the British, into the hills. On the surface of it, you think, well, yeah, the Maroons were slaves who fled from the British up into the hills. So then I break that line down to you and I tell you, listen to the subliminal programming. First of all, they were slaves who escaped. Well, no, they were Africans who escaped from slavery, because their default position is not that of a slave. There was an African before. Yeah. So you're basically, did you see my point? Because we're basically accepting, once you've caught this person, they're not who they were before. They're now a slave. Whether they got away or not, they're a slave. Right. How about even put in, instead of they fled into the hills, that they outsmarted their would-be captors? and got away to the hills. Just the inference alone from that one line has completely changed, although we're telling the same story.
Yes.
You see? And those are the things that I'm really mindful with when I'm talking to students, when I'm writing stuff to them, when I'm presenting stuff to them. I make sure that, you know, you understand for every negative, you got to understand the positive. You got to understand that this was not just everybody sitting down and saying, yes, massa. You know, even when you're talking about slavery, then what happened before it? You know, the richest empire in the history of this world, you know, the Mali Empire. We start talking about, you know, the scramble for Africa. We start talking about the fact that Ethiopia has never been colonized. We talk about the fact that, you know, Emperor Menelik II chased the Italians off. You know, they weren't able to take Ethiopia when they tried. They got, you know, wiped out, you know, and all of these sort of things. These are the positive parts of history that we need to hear. We all hear about, you know, 1066. We all know about, you know, all of these historical figures that are European figures. And back to that, what happens up till the age of 14, you just take that on. You just take it on. And it doesn't mean anything. Then you get to a point, once a year, somebody comes out and says, oh, it's Black History Month. Yeah, Roots is on. You know, 12 years a slave is on. You know, somebody knows what they're doing. No matter how uppity you get, let's still remember roots. Yeah, that's where you came from. No, that's not where we came from. That's what we passed through. We didn't come from there. Yeah, and it's just important that we remember this. So Road to Education, that's the game. You know, going into facilities, schools, whether online, well, you know, most of it nowadays will be online for now at least. Businesses, also tuition, one-to-one tuition, that's the whole package, and again, offering, you know, a number of Black educators, all fully qualified, and yeah, with the same passion and ability to deliver, you know.
Amazing stuff, amazing. Now, I know there were a couple more questions, but I'm kind of cautious of the time. I don't want it to kind of just end without of rounding up. So if you do have any questions for Keety General, please make sure you know, if it's, especially if it's something specific to you, if it's an issue that your child is going through, an issue you're going through as a parent, please make sure, I'm sure I'm speaking all right, but they can message you, right?
yeah, of course.
Excellent. But yeah, it was great speaking to you. Thank you for your insight on those issues as well. We delved a little bit deep, which was good. I kind of like that. So thank you for that. If you can just drop the socials for Road to Education, because I believe it's also got the website link, am I right? Yep,
roadtoeducation.com, and Road to Education, that's with the number 2 in it. So it's Road to Education, the same on the gram as well. And
Road would be RD on Instagram, right? So RD2 Education?
RD2 Education, yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
And the full word, Road to education.com on the net. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for that. Very insightful.
Thank you for having me.
Very insightful.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping that a lot of people kind of learned and got some info and some knowledge on that. Oh, cool. So yeah, excellent. Amazing stuff. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And that was Keety General, and that's it for the evening. So we'll be back in the next few days with another episode of Slay the Talk. All right. Evening, Keety. Cheers for that.
Later.
See you later.
This is my story, my carnival story. This is my story, real Notting Hill story. Hey, I remember Carnival from back in the day when sweet calypso music used to play tune like Dalla Wine and Ratty Ray, when the only soca veteran was Cokie, when Kenny Youngblood was a reggae DJ, when Muhammad Ali was still Cassius Clay, and the one skunky never yet start to go grey, that a long before Roughneck, even Martin J. I love the Bacchanal, I love the Juve, just a two saltfish bacon a glass of Monge, and me ready to fed Friday till Monday. I remember looking forward to bank holiday, and we never want no rain, so we used to pray. I remember when things start to go astray, and the first time the police them use pepper spray, so me call captain right away. Me say, Captain, Carnival it is a part of our history. Why they really want to stop it is a mystery, but anyhow we get the feeling them are this way. Rap, 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 rap. We want to trod the road where ancestor trod, man. Who want to done the carnival must be a madman. Try to done it now if your name bad man. Rah, 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 rah. 1959, St. Pancras Town Hall is where carnival start. Them time it was small, but very soon the town hall overfill. 1964, move it to Notting Hill, and from the beginning the struggle uphill. Carnival 2000, man, it yet was still. I remember that year, 2 man get politicians start scream, got too much blood a spill. I remember Carnival 89, when the sun just got down and the moon start to shine. Look at me watch 3 minutes after 9, thinking to myself that everything fine. I was in the right place, but at the wrong time, when the police decide to lock off the front line, and them claim say it was because of too much crime. But I fear wickedness on them mind. Me say people, carnival it is a part of our history. Why they really want to stop it is a mystery. But anyhow we get the feeling them are this way. Rah, 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 rah. We want to trod the road where ancestor trod, man. Who want to done the carnival must be a madman. Try to done it now if your name bad man. Rah, rah, rah. Come again, Carnival 1976, when the police come out with riot shield and big sticks, and them claim said them come to arrest pickpockets, but the people never fall for the politics. I remember the police get 1 set of licks inside the carnival when I want no lunatics. Me I tell all the man them change your tactics, cut out the badness and done the slackness. Car carnival it is a part of our history. Why they really want to stop it is a mystery. But anyhow we get the feeling them are this way. Rah, 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 rah. We want to trod the road where ancestor trod, man. Who want to done the carnival must be a madman. Try to done it now if your name bad man.